Welcome to the Roadmap to Secure Love. In today's episode, Kim and Kyle discuss how to navigate the chaos of parenting while staying connected as a couple. Let's dive in.
Who are our parents out there? You got little kids running around. It's illness season, so it's not everywhere, sickness everywhere, coming home from daycare because your kid is sick, then you're sick and you can't go to work. You got diapers, bottles, and more. And somehow, in the midst of all of this energy, you and your partner probably are struggling
Probably fighting.
and fighting.
Mhm.
So, this episode, we're going to dedicate this to all of our parents out there on how we can survive and actually become closer and not so far apart.
I'm so excited because this is something. I got a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old, and it is pure chaos. And there has been a lot more conflicts and tension because we're just so stretched.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a developmental thing, Kyle. It's like, so there's this part of like from birth until death, there's like developmental stages that we go through. One of them is having children. So anything that comes into the system, like children,
Mhm.
or then when your children have a significant other and they come back into the system,
Mhm.
or anything, the system, the family system kind of goes, okay. Anything that leaves the system, like when they go to college or somebody passes away or whatever, again, the system kind of goes, ah.
Mhm.
And you really need tools for all of these developmental stages that all of us are going to go through so that we stay connected instead of distant.
Mhm. Or in that distance, we end up fighting each other, right? I know, like, as we've talked about clients with kids, even me having our 2 little kids, there's a lot more stress. It's you got 2 kids crying at the same time, trying to cook breakfast, trying to get them ready to one to go to daycare, one for the nanny, and it's just constant. How are we going to juggle this? And it's so easy to start snipping at each other and talking about how you're not doing enough, how you're doing this, you're the problem. And that's such a common pattern we also see in the clients that have kids and that feel so kind of stretched as we start to attack our partner when we're feeling so overwhelmed, so like we just don't have the spoons and things just feel chaotic and unpredictable.
Wow. Get in that tit for tat cycle.
Mhm.
Well, I cleaned the bottles. Did you change the diapers? Well, and before you know it, you guys are enemies.
Right.
So what do we do?
The first is to start to see that the chaos, the situation you're in, is the problem that you both are facing. You're actually in it together. And
Yeah.
often it is so important to see that this is our lives, that we are both in it together, and how we're feeling with that. One partner might feel totally exhausted, the other partner might feel anxious and overwhelmed. But as being first, the first thing to not see each other as the problem and the enemy is to see that the situation, the stress, the things that we're trying to manage that we feel like we can't manage, that is causing us feeling chaotic on the inside.
Yeah. So the first thing is we've got to name it.
Hmm.
Okay. And then you know our saying, name it, tame it, change it.
Hmm.
Okay. So then how do we tame it? So we've named it. Like I am totally stressed out. I'm up to here in diaper poop. I don't know where to go.
Hmm.
I like have so much going on. Then what do we do?
We try to ask our partner for how they can help us with what we're feeling, right?
Hmm.
If they have can't bandwidth, and they might not. But I think this is the part, instead of going, you don't do this, you don't do enough diaper changes, you didn't cook enough meals, you didn't cook enough of the dishes, you got to spend 10 minutes on your phone. I haven't done that yet. We actually say, I am feeling so overwhelmed and I just am ready to check out. Do you have the spoons to finish up the dishes? That would really help me feel supported right now.
Yeah. So to tame it, you've got to say what you need.
Mhm.
So we got to say something.
in a very clear way so our partner can be successful,
Mhm.
and also give space that they might not actually have the bandwidth at that time to do it.
Yeah, so be okay with the no.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. So then that also means that we, on the other end, that we've got to be able to listen. Because
Right.
not only am I saying something, but I also have to make space to hear when my partner clearly tells me what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to speak and listen.
Yeah. That's where we build that partnership. And here's the other tricky part. Brene Brown talks about this. We're not all going to be able to give 50% or 100% all the time. Some days I might have to give 80%, my partner gives 20%. Some days it's flipped. But it is us continually talking about how we're feeling, making that chaos and the stress we're experiencing the problem, and reaching for each other with what we need and negotiating in a healthy way of how do we survive this together? How do we stay connected? And how do we get through this together that actually starts to, after naming it and taming it, starts to change that pattern?
Yeah. So we name it. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling like I can't keep up.
Mhm.
Then to tame it, I got to clearly say what I need,
Mhm.
be okay with a possible no,
Mhm.
and also open up my ability to listen to what my partner needs.
Mhm.
And then to change it, we start implementing those things and we slow down enough to celebrate it.
What do you mean celebrate that? Yeah, go into that.
Yeah. So, for example, if I go, I just cannot do another diaper, and my partner steps up and does the diapers for the rest of the day,
Mhm.
I can just go, well, yeah, that's what they should be doing. Or I can go, thank you. I really asked for that. And it really helped me a lot. Thank you so much for being a team with me. It made a difference.
Mhm.
So that means I got to kind of slow down and kind of feel what it feels like not to do another diaper that day
Mhm.
and to have my partner listen to me
Mhm.
and then to really allow my partner to know that they made a difference, which means I got to slow down enough to feel it,
Mhm.
which is hard to do when you've got little kids running around and saying, I want this, I want that, or no,
Mhm.
no,
Mhm.
no,
Right.
or no words at all, just crying.
Just crying and screaming or
And
fighting
you
with
have
each
no
other.
idea what they are talking about.
Mhm. Mhm. But I think this is so important. Like even this morning, my whole family's sick. We're all, both our littles, my wife and I are sick. She had to go into a work meeting. She had to leave right at 9. We got to drop off one of the kids. We have someone coming over to help us take care of our 8-month-old. It was pure chaos this morning. And after getting the kids ready, I took both kids with me to drop off one of our kids. That gave my wife some time to shower and get ready for her meeting. And then I got home and I started right into getting some of the dishes done and some other things because our house looked like a bomb went off. And as my wife walked out the door, she said, "Thank you so much. I saw all that you did to clean up our house and that I wasn't there to kind of help out. And thank you for helping me get to my meeting on time." And that I was like, "Oh, thank you for seeing that. I really appreciate you naming that." And I made space to receive that she saw my effort, saw me putting in that 80% so that she could also get what she needed and that we could survive as a family unit through that chaotic morning.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's how we do it.
Mhm.
And it's going to get crunchy, right? It's going to get hard.
Right.
And that's okay. That's okay. Life. And then I got to tell you, I have an older child, right? So, college student. It's still hard.
Mhm.
It's just a different kind of hard, right? Um, Life is hard.
It's so
Parenting
hard.
is hard.
Mhm.
And the only way to survive is not allowing ourselves to get into a tit for tat cycle
Right.
and to really, really use our voice, name what we need, and to celebrate when we're being heard.
Right. And I think this is also so important when we notice ourselves, because this happens for me. I'm like, I've during the nap, my wife took a nap and I was on duty and I did this and I did that. And it's so easy for me to be like, oh, she's not doing enough and just want to blast her the moment she walks out of her nap room, right? Or bedroom.
Mhm.
But that doesn't help us get closer or survive.
No.
The whole reason I have that narrative is there's something I need.
Mhm.
And so how can I explore what is it that I need here? Do I need a break? Do I need her to step up? Do I need acknowledgement? Do I need us to connect this evening and watch a funny show? What is it that I can use this frustration, anger I'm experiencing right now to help me and my partner succeed? And that's hard, especially in the moments when we're feeling overwhelmed and we're feeling like we're back to back childcare, chores, and we don't have time for ourselves. How do we bring that to them in a way that helps us connect?
And I'm thinking as you were talking about like what would I need at that moment? And I was like, I need a nap too. That's
Mhm,
what I would be asking for.
mhm. And
I'm
that's
not
actually what I asked for.
sorry.
Yeah.
I need to sleep.
Uh-huh.
So we're switching times.
Yep. And that's exactly what we did yesterday, is we
Yeah, I
switched.
love that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But I think there's also another part here too, right? Developmentally, like having your daughter go to college. How did you and your husband navigate that change, tolerate that chaos?
So much tears.
Mhm.
It was so hard. And then we had to like talk about our grief, our worries, you know, be intentional about going out on dates, because usually it was like the three of us going out or whatever. And what was cool is that we looked at each other one night and said, guess what? We still like each other and we think we're fun to hang out with. So that was fun, but it was a lot of like, oh my God, she hasn't texted. That was me. Okay, let's just be honest. Oh my gosh, she hasn't texted in 2 days. I wonder if she's okay.
Right.
Um, and my husband, like, I hope she gets all of, that paperwork in because we need to make sure she has her health insurance and, or, that's what we fell into. And just supporting each other, saying, like, of course we're worried
Mhm.
and she can do it. She's going to be okay. Um, but we had to share, we had to cry about it, we had to worry about it and not tell each other, like, get over it. We had to listen. And then we had to make time for ourselves intentionally instead of just sitting at home and being like, oh, right now we would be doing something with, our partner.
Mhm.
Or I'd be doing something with my kid right now. Instead of doing that, we're like, oh, we're going to go hang out.
And I think this is also right for parents with younger kids too. How do you expand that network so you get some space from that system? Can you talk about that? You and I talked about that a little bit before,
Oh
and
my gosh, you
I loved your idea.
totally, yeah, you totally, especially at your stage, Kyle, you totally have to expand your network.
Mhm,
So when we had a baby, we were all by ourselves. Our family lived very far away. We had nobody.
mhm.
Hell, if I could
Yeah.
just say how hard that is. Um, but we had a neighbor whose kid was just 1 year older. And so we would watch their kid for one weekend, and then they would watch our kid for one weekend. And so we would do that several times a month, you know. Um, and the kids grew up together. They were had so much fun. They were so close, and we could breathe. We just needed a break. Um, but again, if there was illness or things like that, we had nobody.
Mhm,
We had nobody. So we had to really rely like on nannies or hiring a student, because my husband worked at a college, to come help us. Now we have the joy of Instacart. So I'm like, I am not grocery shopping anymore. I'm going to do Instacart or
mhm.
whatever. and just really kind of think outside of the box on how you can get things done in an efficient way and create space.
Mhm.
But it's hard.
It is hard. And I think this is something too, like, I mean, we use Instacart. We don't go grocery shopping because we don't have bandwidth for it. But one of the things, like, when we had both kids and we were going through that first 3 months, all the dishes, all the laundry didn't get touched until both kids were put down. And then it was right from the kids go to sleep into chores, then we go to sleep. And there was just no time for us. And one of the things that we started doing was, okay, you double up on both kids. I'm gonna knock out chores, and then we're gonna swap. And that way, when it hit 7:30, and it's their bedtime, all the chores are done, and we get time for ourselves as individuals to work out, to read, to sit on the couch, and then we get time to watch our favorite show or just lay in bed and connect. And so that is something, like, again, looking at how can we be creative to help our stress, and what do we need as parents, what do we need as a couple to survive this chaotic season.
Yes. And you know what? This is before I had children. But we used to watch a friend of ours. They had three children, two boys and a little girl. So my husband and I would come over and watch, and we're like, we're getting ourselves ready on how to have children, you know? And every single time we went there, their house was a mess.
Mhm,
I mean, like a mess.
mhm.
And they would just look at me and be like, okay, just watch where you step because it really hurts to step on a Lego.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And finally, the mom just like came up to me and she's like, one day when you have kids, there's going to be a lot of pressure to keep the house clean. She says, look at how chaotic my house is every single time.
Mhm,
She's like, I choose connection instead of a clean house.
mhm,
And the people who love us, like at the time, us,
mhm.
don't care.
Right.
They watch where they step so they don't step on a Lego.
Mhm.
I think that was the first time I stepped on a Lego, by the way, and it did hurt.
It does
Those
hurt.
little buggers are like, it hurts.
Mhm.
But it stuck with me of like the permission not to have the house a certain way all the time
Right.
and to make a decision for sitting on the floor and doing Legos, or the two boys always love to wrestle. So to wrestle
Mhm.
instead of cleaning up.
Right. I think
And the people who love you will be fine with it.
one of the things that my wife and I've talked about is, what do we have to neglect? What is going to get neglected? Sometimes that is the dishes. Sometimes the dishes have to wait for the next day, and we're going to have to eat out in the morning just to make it through, right? Or the dog doesn't get a walk every single day. Still gets love and cuddles, but we don't have the bandwidth for a walk, right? And so there is a part where we are tolerating and accepting that not everything will get done that we wish could get done, and that we don't have to feel shame or judgment for that. And that is freeing in itself to go, yeah, that we are intentionally neglecting this stuff so we can survive tomorrow, or we can survive the rest of this day. Or what we need most is not to do the dishes, but to sit on the couch and connect and to go to sleep, knowing that the dishes are piled up in the sink. They'll probably need to be scrubbed even harder tomorrow, but that's tomorrow. And we got to connect with each other, which was so much better, or enjoy time with our kids and not just try to shove the chores in while they're awake too.
So what I'm hearing is that what you did and that is that you chose yourselves. You became a champion for the things that were important.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we just have to do that for ourselves and be like, you know what? I'm going to celebrate that. I'm going to celebrate that I said no to dishes today because I just didn't care.
Which I think is a lot harder than how it sounds. Because, like, for me, the narrative is, oh, you're not a responsible adult. Like, there's so much shame that can come with that. Look at how disgusting your house is. Like, a bomb came off. People came in here, they judge you. And some people would, but the people who we do care about, who we do let in our home, when our home looks like that, really don't care because their homes also look the exact same. And so we all get it. But I think being able to tolerate that and not go into a shame spiral, right? Which often leads me to getting angry of I'm not doing enough and I got to do more and we got to get more better organized and just go, okay, this is what we're choosing. And to be okay with that has been huge for managing that chaos and stress.
Yeah. And I want to take it a step farther. I don't want you just be okay with it. I want you to celebrate it.
Mhm,
To be like, yay, I'm so proud of myself.
mhm.
I am not doing the dishes today and I'm doing what I need.
Right.
We don't do that enough, especially when we have kids. Everything goes on the back burner.
Mhm. And I think that's what's so powerful. The reminder to celebrate it is
Mhm.
actually going to help us remember that as we take that time, as we make that choice, there's not going to be shame and guilt that's going to pile up and actually take away from that rest or connection. And it's allow us to really be in the moment and connect with our partner or connect with ourselves in a way that gives us more capacity, gives us more breathing room so we can show up the next day. But honoring ourselves when there's literally no room to honor ourselves and celebrating that, I think is such a profound way to get through that season, actually doing it pretty darn well.
When my daughter was growing up, she really loved Ariel, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so she would pick up rocks. And at one time, I think we had like 200 rocks in our house. And she put them like right under the TV and she would say, "This is my collection. This is my collection." And, you know, the rocks, they weren't pretty. They took up everything, all the space. But looking back, she still talks about, remember when I had my collection, as Ariel? She's like, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Memories are about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not about how the house looked or all the things we checked off. It is about connection. It is about having fun. It is about turning into our partners, turning into our kids, asking for help and being met.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a good life.
I think this is what's so paradoxical. There's so much research that says the happiest humans thrive because of their connection with others.
Mhm.
And yet we have all these pressures of our house has to look a certain way, our cars, the chores, all the stuff we have to get done has to be a certain way, and it can rob us of that connection. It can rob us of no, our TV stand cannot have a bunch of rocks on it. You can only have one rock. It can miss out on that collection that our kid cherishes
Mhm.
and remembers for the rest of their life.
Mhm.
And so I think this is an important thing too, is as a couple, how do you choose that connection with yourselves as well as with your kids and come up with your own views on what your home will look like?
Mhm.
And I think that example of the collection is such a beautiful imagery to that. You and your husband defined we can live with these rocks because look at the joy and connection it brings our daughter.
So we've got to name it how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to tame it by telling about what we need, being okay with the no, and also listening to what our partner's needs. And it leads to changing it. And when we change it, we want to celebrate it.
Mm-hmm. Even if that change is hard, even if that change is not doing the dishes, even that change is focusing on something else, celebrating that and also getting the support when you get someone to watch your kids for a little bit and it's just the two of you, not, okay, we got to get back at this time, but here we are. I've missed you.
Mm.
Isn't it so great just to see you again?
Uh, Expanding your network is a huge must.
Mhm.
As someone who did not have family close, whew,
Yeah.
I had to think outside the box. a lot in
Mhm.
order to stay grounded.
You have to survive.
Hmm. Yeah. And I just had one.
Mm.
Imagine if I had like two like you do. Whew.
Yeah, it's a big who. But I think this is the part one, three, right? It's so much stress. It's hard. And how do we as partners survive it together? How do we as a family unit survive it together? And these steps, being able to name it, talk to our feelings, be able to share it with our partner, ask for what we need in a clear way, see that cycle, that tit for tat cycle as the problem, be able to expand our network and celebrate the choices we make can really help us survive it together rather than let it pull us apart, which happens to so many couples.
Today's episode reminded us of some powerful tools for navigating parenting stress. 1. See the stress and chaos as shared. 2. Communicate needs clearly. 3. Celebrate small wins. 4. Expand your support network. And 5. Prioritize connection over perfection. Follow the roadmap to secure love on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Sign up for the Secure Attachment Path course to learn practical tools for building secure connections. Link in the show notes. Until next time, stay connected and keep listening with love.